If you want to get a band 6 for English, you need to make sure that you're really confident answering questions that give you a specific extract that you need to link to your text. Now, historically for Module A, at least the last two HSCs, they've given extracts from either one or both of the set texts, and you need to be able to incorporate those. I think Module B is a very common place that they will give an extract because it's obviously on one text, so they may give you just like a section from the beginning, somewhere in the middle, or the end. They don't give you extracts that are going to be really obscure, okay? It wouldn't make sense to, okay? They're not actually trying to trick you. So I think with doing extracts, the key thing to remember is that if you've done the work and you know the text and you've got something prepared, they can't ask you anything that's going to be something you can't answer. And I think actually getting over the fear that they can ask you something that you haven't prepared is much more real than it actually happening. I've seen people go into exams, look at an extract, freak out, or a difficult question and go, oh, I just don't know how to answer that. My essay is not about that. But then when we looked at it later, they've gone, oh, of course my essay was about that. I just didn't make the connection between what they were asking and what I had prepared. And look, I know there's this whole thing in English that, oh, they can ask you anything. Like, they can't. There's a text. It's going to be about the text. It's going to be about the main ideas in the text. If it wasn't, then you're not really going to be doing a proper analysis of the text, which is what they're trying to get you to do at the end of the day, right? So that's the first thing. Second thing is to give you a rubric. They're not going to ask you anything outside of the rubric. That's why there's a rubric. So, you know, I know sometimes people look at things like maths and sciences and they're like, oh, I prefer those because, you know, it's a lot more clear what they're asking for. But that is the same for English. There's just this like myth that, you know, it's going to be mysterious and they're going to trick you and they're going to give you something that you've never seen before. It just doesn't exist, okay? What you need to do in order to get over that fear is look at as many questions and do as many questions as you can before you come to the exam so that you're not going to see anything you haven't already seen, you know? So when I was doing my HSC, the previous year they'd been asked for Module B to do a conversation, which I haven't seen anything like that in a very long time since then, so I don't think you need to worry about that. But they actually asked you to do write a conversation between two people about the text in question, right? It's almost like a debate or, you know, basically just have a conversation about it or an argument. So the previous year they'd done that, and then I spent like all of year 12 going, I'm like staying away from that question. It just scared me so much. I'm like, oh my God, I wouldn't know how to do it. But then the day before the HSC, I went, you know what? I'm just going to do this question that's scaring me. And I did it. And it actually really wasn't that bad. And you know what? I got that question the next day and I killed it because I had done that practice. So whatever question scares you, practice it. If you don't know how to do it, find someone who can help you out with that. But you know, you just need to really I suppose force yourself to actually do it, and don't leave anything that scares you unpracticed, because if you do get it, obviously then that's going to be a real that's going to pull you up in the actual exam. Okay, so when we come to an extract, the way to do an extract is you need to treat it like a comprehension task. So when you're looking at it, and you know, obviously you get to read through it in reading time, there's going to be an extract, there's going to be a question attached. A lot of people just ignore the extract and they just go for the question, especially if the question isn't just, oh, look at the extract and analyze it. There could be sort of like two big parts to it. Make sure that if they give you, and it's not just an extract, it's if they give you a quote, you know, like a critic's quote, or basically, I don't know, someone, or a quote from the composer, and then they ask you a question below. The quote is part of the question, and you want it to be part of the question, because the more opportunities you have to use the words that they've given you to answer the question, the more likely you are to get a good mark, because it shows you really have an actual understanding of the text. You haven't just gone in with something prepared and memorized without any understanding of proper understanding of what that content is, and then therefore obviously how to apply it to the question. Okay, so I love extracts because I think it gives students that really know their work an opportunity to display their knowledge, but you still need to do that practice even if you do know the text, because you know, you need to know how to actually do it. Okay, so when you get the extract or the quote, like underline or, you know, annotate it basically. So like, okay, what are the techniques? What are the key ideas? Make sure that you understand what that extract's talking about. And then when you think about your argument, what you want to do is figure out what the key idea is behind the actual extract, so that you can then mention that in your introduction. So it should be mentioned in your introduction. You don't need to quote in your introduction specifically from the extract, but you do need to mention what the key idea is. And like, chances are, very high chances are, if you've done a proper analysis already before you've gone in, you'll know what that extract is talking about, because it's going to be from the text that you've just spent a whole term and more on, right? So you're going to say what the idea is in the extract, and actually say in the extract given blah 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 blah, or like say the idea and go as evident in the extract given. Okay, so we've got it mentioned in the introduction. In an ideal world, you will quote from that extract in every single paragraph. Okay, it's different for every text, it's different for every extract. So I'm going to try and do a couple of videos where we look at particular extracts, particular modules. But what you need to do is, try to incorporate like their quotes into each paragraph if you can. Always prioritize their quotes over your quotes. Don't look at it and go, oh yeah, I've already kind of got a quote that pretty much is that, not that one, but like one I've prepared. So then therefore I've answered the question. No, you haven't. Use theirs, get rid of yours. You always prioritize their quotes over your quotes. And obviously best case scenario, you can just slot it in, you know what I mean? So I don't know, let's say you're doing T.S. Eliot and you've done your essay on, or one of your prepared ones was Rhapsody, and then they give you something from Proofrock. Like there is so much overlap between, like within, not only within text, because there's key ideas that run throughout, but even within something like a suite of poems. Okay, so you need to be prepared to substitute your examples for their examples. You obviously know the analysis, so you're going to be fine there. But like I said, try to do it in each paragraph, and also say that it explicitly say it's from the actual extract given. So you'd say something like, this is evident in the extract given where, give your quote. And that's it basically. So yeah, just mention the idea that it is in the introduction. Try to use it as much as you can throughout your essay. In a perfect world, you would use it in each paragraph, but that may not be appropriate. But even so, like if, let's say, for example, they give you the end of the text, it would be weird to start talking about the end of the text at the beginning of your analysis, right? So at least if you've mentioned in the introduction how the stimulus, like what the key idea is, it will then be evident in your introduction that it's probably something you're going to refer to later on because it's at the end. Okay. And then obviously when you come to the last paragraph, you do as much of an analysis on the extract given, even if you weren't able to figure out a way to link it into the previous paragraphs. Okay. So that's going to be fine as well. If they're given at the end, it makes sense for you to analyze it in the end. Don't totally change the structure of your essay to not make any sense because you got an extract. Okay. So as long as it's in there, as long as you've clearly identified in the introduction how you're going to use it, then they're not sitting there for the whole essay going, is this person an easy extract? Because I'm reserving quite a few marks for when someone does actually use the extract. And you don't want them to have to wait until the last paragraph of your essay to figure out that, yes, you did in fact use the extract. Okay. So that's why you want to start with it in the introduction. If you can talk about it in the first paragraph a little bit more, that's ideal as well. But yes, look, as long as it's in there, as long as you talk about it in the introduction, you'll be totally fine. Do quote from there, get the techniques. Yes, you do need to still analyze techniques from there. So obviously doing your like unseen text practice should help you figure something out. But as I've said in my videos about that, worst case scenario, if you've got a really good quote, you're like, I just don't know what technique this is and I don't have time to think about it. Symbolism works pretty much everything because you're going to have a quote that symbolizes the idea that you want to talk about. So that's easy, as long as it's a good quote. You've got tone, put an emotion on the front of the tone. That works for most things. And then you've got imagery, you know, so, but again, put an adjective on the front. So like vivid imagery or like dull imagery or whatever it is. Okay. So may not be your most sophisticated analysis of all time, but that's okay. They know you're under exam conditions. It's like in the comprehension or the unseen text practice. It's not going to be as polished as something you've obviously been drafting and redrafting every single week, but you've got 40 minutes. Okay. So like, and they get that. So, but you will always get more marks for showing that you've really engaged with the question, even if the quality of your writing and your analysis is slightly less sophisticated than if you just don't do the analysis, don't include the stimulus, have your really sophisticated one, but then not show that you really answer the question, because they absolutely want to see you're answering the question. That's where people are going to get the best marks.